Hollywood often tries to capitalize on trends and add market research, and teenagers are often hard to nail down, but lucrative market that, with the right formula, can pay off in dividends. So cue the influx of teen-focused PG-13 horror films that desperately tried to grab all that untapped cash. And while there were some rare hits, most of them were generic to complete garbage. Before we begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. With that being said, I'm your host, Jamie, and here are 10 of the worst PG-13 horror films. Number 1. Truth or Dare. I'm of the camp that most films, even the worst, have something redeemable, even amongst the trash. For 2018's Truth or Dare, I had to dig deep into the heap to find anything that even glimmers. The film's one creepy element was the exaggerated smile on each victim, but it was done so poorly it just looked like a distortion filter. Fast forward to 2022's Smile, which was not only deliciously frightening with an engaging story, but those filmmakers pulled off that creepy smile so well that everyone forgot, or pretended to forget, that Truth or Dare did it first. The idea behind Truth or Dare was more interesting than how it played out. The characters have to play Truth or Dare, and if they fail to, they die. I often find that a lot of PG-13 horror hurts itself by not just being rated R, especially ones that involve elaborate deaths. Because if all else fails, some cool kills can at least make it worth a watch. Like Randy says in Scream 2, carnage candy. The audience just expects it. Regardless, Truth or Dare suffers from being bland, cliche, with flat, illogical characters. The truth is, I won't even dare you to watch it. Kidding, I dare you to check it out on Prime, Fandango, or Google Play. Number 2. Countdown. The marketing for the film Countdown was far more intriguing than the film itself. Its tagline read, "Death? There's an app for that." It conveyed a cheeky, satirical film in the vein of Scream or Happy Death Day. That is not what we got. Countdown involves a new app that you can download, and it tells you when you're gonna die. Sounds like it could be fun, right? This story had the potential to explore society's reliance on apps through the lens of horror. Instead, it didn't do much beyond its premise and was fraught with tropes and cliches. Critics did make some comparisons to it in the Final Destination series, calling it much less creative version of it. For the deaths alone, Countdown should have been rated R. Otherwise, it's a forgettable vehicle for jump scares that you can check out on Netflix, Fandango, or Prime. Number 3. Black Christmas. For starters, the 2006 remake of Black Christmas is worse, as it is wholeheartedly a generic slasher, but it gets points for being rated R and being kind of fun. 2019's Black Christmas is another film on this list undermined by the lack of an R rating, as all the deaths are off-screen. The fact that the original Black Christmas and its first remake are rated R, yet Universal Studios went with a PG-13 for their 2019 version, is typically a sign of desperation. This film has a strong ensemble of cast of talented actresses, but they play one-dimensional characters. While 2019's Black Christmas did better at building suspense than any other film on this list, that's a low bar. The best of the worst is still bad. At least the film is topical and its twist differentiated from its other versions, giving it a reason to exist. That being said, the 2019 Black Christmas is a narrative mess and could have done a better job of balancing its tones. Not only that, but the ending undoes anything that might have been salvaged from the narrative by blaming all the toxic frat behavior on some mystical black goop trapped in a bust of some cult founder. Clock in for some misery by hopping over to Sling, Max, Hulu, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango to check it out. Number 4, Dracula Untold. Dracula Untold was originally supposed to be the first film in Universal's planned Dark Universe, but they backtracked after its poor reception. Then the 2017 version of The Mummy came out, which, sans action sequences, was worse, and so ended the shortest-lived cinematic universe as future projects in it were gradually canceled. Dracula Untold is a good example of an interesting concept poorly executed. The titular character, Vlad Dracula, is played by Luke Evans, who rose to fame playing Bard the Bowman in Peter Jackson's The Hobbit trilogy. In Dracula Untold, Vlad is a ruler and a warrior who finds a scout's helmet while venturing about, which he fears could signal a coming invasion. Him and some of his men are attacked by a cave-bound vampire in which only Vlad survives. Upon his return home, he is met by an Ottoman emissary who demands boys for an army, including Vlad's son. Vlad seeks out the caged vampire to strike a deal, one that would set the vampire free in exchange for temporary use of his powers. I truthfully didn't think Dracula Untold was too bad. It's aggressively middle of the road in a lot of areas, but it is its potential that leaves much to be desired. The cast stands out and there is occasionally inspired dialogue and action, but it is otherwise a humdrum affair. Dracula Untold isn't too long watch though, running around 90 minutes. So see this story on Netflix, Google Play, Prime, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 5, Insidious, The Last Key. Insidious The Last Key was a new low in the supernatural franchise that began with one of the most influential horror films of the 2010s, Insidious. Although the fourth installment in the franchise isn't terrible, it was just sad to see a fairly strong franchise devolve so much. The film did feature some fan-favorite characters. Elisa Renner, played by horror icon Liz Shay, as well as comic relief paranormal investigating team Specs and Tucker. Specs is played by Lee Wannell, who is the franchise's primary scribe and wrote and starred in Saw as well, while Tucker is played by Angus Mappson, known for his excellent deadpan delivery. The Last Key is a prequel. Its story focuses on Elisa, whose psychic paranormal services are requested by a man who resides in her childhood home. So the film primarily explores her past. The lack of focus of this film is its undoing, as it is a narrative mess despite some strong character development and twist. It also unfortunately lacks much of the atmosphere as well as crafted scares that earlier installments had. You can check this installment out over on Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango.
Looking for some new duds to dazzle your friends and family with? Support Fat Ninja Studios by heading over to fatninja.shop and checking out our very own merch store. We've got everything from shirts, hoodies, hats, shoes, and more. Again, check out fatninja.shop. Every dollar spent goes to our big fund jar and helps us produce more quality content and short films. Thanks again.
Number 6, Red Riding Hood. Red Riding Hood's biggest disservice is it wastes the star talent, Amanda Seyfried in particular, but also Gary Oldman. The film is a darker retelling of Little Red Riding Hood, which back in 2011 I was adamantly looking forward to. Unfortunately, Red Riding Hood is extremely cliche in both its romance and fantasy elements, and contains a forced, unoriginal love triangle. I'm saying this as someone who is a sucker for a good romance story too. Some of these issues shouldn't come as a surprise, as director Catherine Hardwicke also helmed Twilight. Although, in her defense, the brunt of the problems in Red Riding Hood lie in David Leslie Johnson's poor script. The narrative is weak, and dialogue is frequently cringe-inducing. Red Riding Hood certainly has visual flair, but neither that nor Seyfried are enough to lift it out from the bottom of the barrel. Let me know what you think after you check this out on Prime or Google Play. Number 7, The Vatican Tapes. The Vatican Tapes is a supernatural possession film released in 2015. It goes through the motions of any Exorcist film with all the cliches and plot beats you'd expect. The real problem with the subgenre is it hasn't evolved much in 50 years. The glut of exorcism films all seem to exist forever in the shadow of William Friedkin's 1973 horror classic, The Exorcist. Regardless, the Vatican Tapes' high contrast, cool color temperature aesthetic, while neither good nor bad, feels dated by 2015. There are some crafty, even evocative cameras work, but it is far and few. And I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but this is another film that would have benefited from an R rating, as there are some brutal deaths that the audience is only teased about. One involves someone gouging their own eyes out, but it was shown from behind and cut away quickly. Yes, sometimes things should be left to the imagination to build mystery or suspense, but this wasn't one of those instances. Despite the Vatican Tapes not being a very good film, the ending was intriguing enough where I'd give the filmmakers one more shot to see where it goes. In the meantime, you can watch this over on Tubi, Plex, Prime, Google Play, Apple TV, or Fandango. Number 8, The Lazarus Effect. Renowned producer Jason Blum is behind some of the best, or just plain scary, modern horror films. His resume includes Paranormal Activity, Insidious, Sinister, Halloween 2018, and Megan. But every now and then, his production company will miss the mark, and that happened with the 2015's The Lazarus Effect. As someone who loves Donald Glover and adores Olivia Wilde, it's unfortunate that they were in such a bad film. The ensemble is a highlight despite their characters being flat and underdeveloped. The story revolves around a team of scientists who have crafted a formula that can resurrect the dead. The concept is familiar as we've seen it in the likes of Pet Sematary and Flatliners. The Lazarus Effect does bring up some intriguing notions, like whether or not our notion of the afterlife is purely chemical, but it fails to really explore them. The Lazarus Effect starts off strong, but gradually gets worse. It's technically competently made, but competence only goes so far when even the technical aspects, like the sound and visuals, are boilerplate and cliche. Let me know what you think after you watch this on Tubi, Peacock, Pluto, Roku, VIX, Prime, Fandango, Google Play, or Apple TV. Number 9, Ouija. How do I feel about the 2014 Ouija film based on the popular toy board? I say skip it. Watch the prequel directed by Mike Flanagan, who rose through the ranks to become one of the best horror directors in recent memory. His resume includes acclaimed horror media such as Oculus, Hush, Dr. Sleep, and Netflix's smash hit The Haunting of Hill House. But I digress. Ouija actually hits the ground running, wherein the protagonist just lost her best friend and wants to say goodbye, so she uses a Ouija board to do so. It's a nice little sentimental inciting incident. Of course, she accidentally summons a demon and everything goes to hell, including any cinematic value for this film. It's unengaging, uninspired, and I couldn't imagine it being scary for even the faint of heart. If you're curious to see how bad it is, or just about the film in general, feel free to check it out over on Netflix, Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, or Prime. Number 10, The House at the End of the Street. I was initially excited about The House at the End of the Street because I simply love Jennifer Lawrence. And her starring in a horror film? What a treat. I ultimately passed on a theatrical experience. My only regret with that decision is I am much more focused when I screen a film on the silver screen. On the small screen, The House at the End of the Street was too clunky and poorly executed to hold my interest. Even Jennifer Lawrence couldn't save it. This story, which itself has some intrigue, revolves around Elisa and her mother, played by Jennifer Lawrence and Elizabeth Shue, respectively, moving into a new house. The house at the end of the street on the block in which they moved to has a dark past, which involves an alleged murder. The film's potential for subtle psychological horror is completely destroyed by its derivative nature and poor cinematic craftsmanship. But take some time to check this out on Max, Hulu, Prime, Google Play, Redbox, Apple TV, or Fandango. Thanks for checking out the video. Did we leave any films off the list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed our video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to tap that bell icon to stay up to date with our latest releases. You can reach out to us on Twitter or X at StudiosFat, or chat with us on Discord, linked below. If you're really enjoying our content and want to help support us, click that join button for exclusive content, rewards, and perks. Make sure to check out our very own merch store located at fatninja.shop. All proceeds go towards our next film project, so we'd greatly appreciate it. I've been your host, Jamie. Thanks again. See you in the next one.